in Madrid, the Spanish government. It is all about Catalan independence. We've already seen a hotly disputed referendum. We've seen violence on the streets too. And in the next few hours and days, we may see a unilateral Catalan declaration of independence. We may see direct rule imposed from Madrid. The stakes here are very, very high for Catalonia, for Spain, and also for the European Union, because this passionate conflict resonates right across this continent. I am joined for this debate by a panel of 4 speakers who represent both sides of this argument. Each of them is going to speak for approximately 4 minutes to make their case. When we've heard all 4 cases, we are going to open it up to this wonderful audience of some 300 or so people here in Barcelona to have a debate, to raise questions, to make points, to hear the voice of people here in the heart of the Catalonian capital. On this side, first, let me introduce you closest to the lectern to Amadeu Altafaj. He is the permanent representative of the Catalonian government to the European Union in Brussels. Next to Mr. Altafaj, we have Leslie Riddoch, who is vice-convener of the Scottish Independence Convention, an extremely well-known Scottish journalist and campaigner for self-determination and independence, of course, in the Scottish context. On the other side in this debate, please welcome, on the far end of our panel, Jorge Toledo. He is the Spanish government minister for EU affairs in the foreign ministry. And next to me, alongside Mr. Toledo, Dr. Ricardo Gosalbo. He is the former legal director of external affairs for the Council of the European Union and brings an EU perspective to this debate. Ladies and gentlemen, please give all 4 of our panel members a very warm welcome. I should say that the order of our panel speakers has been agreed with all of them beforehand, so no quarrels about who goes first or last. And I should also remind you, listen very carefully, because the key point of the next hour or so is to get your questions and your points when you've heard the cases made. So let's get to it with our first speaker. I'm going to invite to take the lectern the Catalan representative in Brussels, Amadeu Altafaj.
Thank you, Mr. Sakur, and thank you very much to the BBC for daring to organize this debate here in Brussels at such a sensitive time. I appreciate, as the former journalist I am too. First, I will start for our global audience with a number of elements of context. Catalonia is a nation. It has a distinct language, institutions that date from the Middle Ages, and it is currently a nation in a state, in the context of a state, which does not recognize fully its plurinationality. That's an important fact to keep in mind. The Spanish Constitution, approved in 1978, that is after almost 4 decades of the dictatorship, does not recognize any other nation than the Spanish nation, unlike, for instance, the United Kingdom. The Spanish Constitution has broadly remained unchanged for almost for 4 decades already. It's kind of a frozen text, and it has failed to address the territorial debate and the territorial issues that were always present in Spanish politics. Nevertheless, successive Catalan governments engage over the decades constructively in Spanish politics, with the aim of contributing to the modernization of Spain, both political, by the way, and material modernization, social modernization of the state. This dynamics was broken by the attacks to self-government by the Partido Popular starting in 2005-2006, which resulted in a shameful ruling against the autonomy law by the Constitutional Court in 2010. A law, by the way, which was negotiated and approved by both the Catalan and the Spanish parliaments and voted in a referendum by Catalan citizens. So that was a major setback, and it was followed by an exhaustive push for recentralization. These attacks, of course, prompted a very strong reaction from the Catalan civil society, with huge demonstrations in Catalonia, year after year, peaceful demonstrations, and I want to underline that peaceful character of those massive demonstrations with almost 1 million people every year on the street. You know, in any normal democracy in Europe, when you have 1 million people on the streets and you are in government, the next day you draw the conclusion that you have a problem, right? And it's a problem of a political nature. It's not a law and order problem. And when you have a political problem and you are in government, you address it through politics, through political dialogue. You do not neglect the reality year after year, as it has happened. It is important to underline that. Political problems call for political solutions, for political dialogue, not only the law and the law and the law, especially if this law is contested by many people. You know, instead what happened in Spain is basically the state and the government in particular delegated what was a major and increasing political challenge to courts and lately to even police forces. That's not the best sign of a healthy democracy. And that's the central point for me today. The failure of politics. The lack of politics, chronic lack of politics, and lately the authoritarian behavior of an entrenched government in Madrid. On 1st of October, we had a referendum. It was a referendum. 2.3 million people voted, in spite of the amazing level of violence that the whole world could witness and was denounced by Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, the United Nations, etc. Now we are entering, of course, an even more challenging time with this activation of Article 155 of the Spanish Constitution, basically attempting to suppress the Catalan government, take control of the regional parliament, police, public media through this article, is the last episode of this failure.
Mr. Altafaj, we're almost out of time.
Okay, so basically we are entering now in a journey into the unknown, and it is and this is the best recipe for chaos and uncertainty, which will have effects beyond Spain, unfortunately.
All right. So, we will end you there. You've had your 4 minutes. I thank you very much, Amadeo Altafaj.